With the 87th pick, the Arizona Cardinals selected a guy by the name of Cameron Thomas, who's someone I was very high on. I, in fact, had a first round grade on him. So I kind of wanted to give a film study and really explain what I liked about him so much and why I was higher on him than others were. For one thing, again, if you like to look at the analytics side of things and look at, what are some statistics that translate well to the NFL level, guys who do well at these statistics in college tend to do well at them at the NFL level. Thomas did very well at those statistics. He did have a very solid pass rush win rate. You look at his PFF grades, which translate well. Those were very good. Run defense, not quite as good, but still good. Still productive, and the pass rush was very good, especially in sets where you knew it was going to be a pass rush scenario. He performed especially well in those scenarios. So he's definitely someone who can get out and get after the quarterback, whether it's from the inside or the outside. And that's something that I think is fascinating about him. Now, the one thing you have to mention, he didn't play against super high-level competition, so that's a huge aspect of all of this, is not the highest degree of competition, but he still had good games against, decent competition. So I don't know how much I would really factor into that. I think he's good. So let's get into the film and talk about what I like about him so much. So let's start off with this play. What we're going to see happen here is that's where he is on the screen. So you see him here. And really kind of one of the big things that he does well is, he's 265 pounds. So that feels a little bit light for an interior defensive guy. And maybe because of that, he will be sort of an edge guy. I think he probably will be an edge guy, quite frankly. But he can do both. He certainly is versatile. And, he's able to win with power. Watch what happens on this play. Look, as you see, so the center and right guard are both going to go over to block Thomas, which, the way I view it, you get two guys blocking you, then you win. You've done your job if you get two guys blocking you, because that frees stuff up for everyone else, especially as an interior pass rusher. That alone, congratulations, you have done a good job. However, it is not going to just be that with Thomas. He's going to do something else. Thomas has his right hand kind of on the, you can't really see it too well from this angle, but he has his right hand on the guard's left side of his body. So that's going to allow him to potentially try to just push in between both of these guys. Watch him just overpower that offensive lineman and knocks him over right there. Didn't quite have enough time to generate a pressure. Quarterback threw an interception, so probably a good thing that the ball ended up getting thrown. But again, I care less about did you get a pressure on this exact play, more about are you winning consistently, because that tends to be what translates better. Do you get a sack? Do you get pressure? A lot of that stuff tends to be relatively fluky, whereas this stuff tends to be more consistent. Going over to something like this, one thing I've noticed a lot about the guys that I tend to be higher on than other people are is guys who win a lot with technique. Not that I'm actively seeking out guys who primarily win with technique, because I do get it. You can teach technique to other players, but it's more so what I want more than anything is guys who are just winning consistently, and it seems like that's kind of an undervalued thing. People tend to care more about, how are your highlights? How is your best wins? And things of that nature. Can you be an incredible athlete and all that type of stuff? At the end of the day, football is in part a mental game, and Thomas can play that mental game. Look, as you see right when this play begins, so it's starting off like it's going to be just like a regular bull rush, but this is where hands come into play. A lot of, especially young guys, kind of will just do one move, or sometimes not even do a move, just run up and hope for the best. That is not Thomas. He is definitely someone who's constantly going to be making moves. Watch him get his left hand over, get that swim move, and he is able to get a pressure there. So again, being able to use hands, really underrated trait, I think, in an offensive or defensive lineman, really. But that's something that I think really goes undervalued a lot of times. Is people look at hands as kind of something that you can teach. Every offensive line coach believes they can teach a guy how to use hands, but there's plenty of guys at the NFL level who never learn. So it's nice to have someone who you already know can do that stuff. There's also stuff like this. This is kind of an interesting play, I think. So he is going to be going up one-on-one against the right tackle, and this isn't going to be something I would consider a win by him necessarily. Look, as you see, so right when this play begins, you kind of notice that I think, well blocked by the right tackle there. Thomas isn't able to generate too much pressure, so this is a loss. And that's not the end of the world, because everyone loses, and he loses less than a lot of other guys. But watch when the quarterback starts to step up in the pocket, watch Thomas be able to get over and still, keep his head up, pay attention to the quarterback, and have the athleticism to go over and make a tackle. So to me, this is, the whole play as a whole isn't necessarily a positive. Like if this is all he was doing, I wouldn't consider it a positive. But the fact that he does generate pressure and can do stuff like this, to me, is what I consider a positive. Just that it's another aspect of his game, right? Like TJ Watt can do this stuff. TJ Watt typically just wins outright, but when he doesn't, he can still find ways to impact the play. Well, that's what Thomas can do. Obviously, Thomas is not TJ Watt, just using an extreme example to make my point. Something like this is another interesting one. Again, it's going to be one-on-one against the right tackle, and watch what happens. So at first, you're going to see just the initial contact here, and what Thomas's job is on this running play is to make sure that if the halfback tries to bounce things to the outside, Thomas is there to make the tackle. That's his goal on this play. That's his assignment. And watch how good of a job he's going to do. As you see, he does make sure he gets over and is able to make that tackle for a loss there. So really good play by Thomas. He is someone who can be effective in both the, running game and the passing game, which is important because the Cardinals desperately need run stoppers as well, I think. So yeah, I think it's a good selection. They also got another guy I really liked in Majai Sanders, so maybe we'll make a video on him at some point as well. But, I think I just like drafting defensive linemen. I think it's smart because those are, the statistics say those are the easiest guys to evaluate. Not saying that you always are going to nail every single pick. There is no pick that is bust proof no matter what. There's always a risk factor in drafting a guy, but edge rushers tends to be the most consistent and the easiest to evaluate. So, and I'm saying edge rusher, he could be interior defensive lineman, maybe a 3-4 defensive end, whatever you want to put him at. I think he could be. I like him best as an edge guy, but I can see the argument, especially for a 3-4 defensive end. But regardless, my main point about defensive linemen in general is they have a lower bust rate than any other position. So drafting those guys, you have a better chance of making sure you get a good player. And let's be honest, a lot of mediocre defensive linemen will still get tons of money in free agency. So getting someone on a cheap contract who can still play and still play his role makes a lot of sense, and you can save that money and get quarterbacks and receivers with the money that you do have and that you can spend. So that's part of what I like about drafting edge rushers as well. I think this is a very, very good selection by the Arizona Cardinals, and one that I like. And honestly, this is definitely something they could use. I mean, Devin Kennard, Marcus Golden are not necessarily bad players by any means, but I think you could certainly use some more edge guys if you want to. And even again, do you want to move him to the inside? They'll figure out exactly how they want to use him because they do like to play a lot of 3-4. So I wouldn't be shocked if he is that 3-4 defensive end. And again, maybe you have Majai Sanders being the pure outside guy. So, as in the guy you drafted, and he'll fill that role. And the reality is, another reason why I like drafting defensive linemen is they'll get playing time. There's some positions you draft and it's like, well, can you get playing time? That was the real issue with Isaiah Simmons when he first got drafted, was he did not play very well right away. And it was kind of like, okay, well, we can't really justify putting you on the field now because we have to be competitive right now. We're trying to make the playoffs. So what do we do right here? We have to, we don't know what can we give you playing time? Can we not? You don't really have that issue with defensive linemen because you're going to have rotational guys, so you're going to get some playing time regardless, and the better you perform, then the more playing time you get. So that's probably how Thomas will start off as a rotational player and see if he can earn more from that. But yeah, as a whole, someone who I'm very interested in seeing how he performs at the next level. I could see him having a pretty good career, but that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Cameron Thomas to the Cardinals? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.